Hello, welcome to Room One. Glad to have you all here to hear these three excellent presenters share their work this morning. It's gonna be good. It is gonna be good. Ray, remember that each presentation will be 10 minutes, followed by an 8-minute Q&A. And be aware that once you're invited, please unmute yourself and to ask questions and also to type them in, and I'll ask them as well. Please remain muted while the presentations take place. Now, for our first presenter, here it is. The first presenter will be Nissi Karunya, pronouns she, her, hers. Her presentation is titled Greening of Nature in Feminist Writings, a comparative study of when women were birds by Terry Tempest Williams and The Hunt by Mahaswetha Devi. Nissi, may your odds be ever in your favor. Begin.
Thank you so much, Noah. I hope I'll be able to share my screen. The host has disabled screen sharing. Is it possible to enable screen sharing so that I can share my screen?
Yes, no problem. Yes, going to go over there right now just to make sure. Okay. And now you can share your screen.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
Just one second. Is my screen visible now? Do you see a few women around a tree standing? Is my screen visible?
Did you press share screen to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Share.
Yep. Okay. All good. You see it.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. I hope it's morning for all of you. It's almost 10 p.m. at my place, India. And a warm welcome and greetings to every one of you from India. And I'm so happy to be a part of this ecological discussion. And my presentation is titled Greening of Nature and Feminist Writing, Comparative Study of When Women Were Birds by Terry Tempest Williams and The Hunt by Mahaswetha Devi. So I am Nissi and I teach English at Lady Doak College, Madurai, which is in the southernmost part of India. And the institution I belong to is one of the earliest institutions established for women. And since it's the southernmost part of India, the history of our college traces back to a point when parents were reluctant to send their daughters out of their homes for education. So a missionary named Katie Wilcox came all the way from Connecticut, my place in Tamil Nadu, to establish an institution like this. So women from close-knit and conservative families come here and get their education. So let me get into my presentation. The COVID-19 pandemic has actually taken our world by storm. The spread of this deadly virus it can be inevitably linked to the destruction of wildlife, wrecked natural habitats, and threats to ecosystems. Further, researchers trace this strand of zoonotic virus uh, and its irrefutable linkage to the disruption of web of life, which has caused irreparable dents in the cycle of life on Earth. Healthy ecosystems and diversity of species curb the spread of pathogens. Biodiversity loss has taken a serious toll on the crown of creation, which is us human beings. No place on earth is immune to this environmental jeopardy. Will humankind come to a realization only when their life is affected? The entire web suffers the havoc of environmental destruction. The web of life, being an interdependent entity, grows together. So I major in literature, and my focus is on two literary works, which is When Women Were Birds by Terry Tempest Williams and The Hunt by Mahaswetha Devi, an Indian writer. Talking about literature, literature has chronicled the connection between human beings and landscapes since times immemorial. With the growing hue and cry to save the earth and its disappearing life, responses have been recorded in environmental literature across the globe. Like many schools of thought, eco-criticism is characterized by distinct waves that signpost the growth of ecocentric deliberation. So here I have pointed out the different waves of eco-criticism. Lawrence Buell, in his 2005 book, The Future of Environmental Criticism, made a demarcation of the different waves of eco-criticism. So the first wave of eco-criticism, it depends on, it dwells on the contemplation and rumination of the beauties of nature. It's preoccupation with nature. So the works of Thoreau and Wordsworth, they testify this maiden wave, the first wave of eco-criticism and its preoccupation with wilderness. The second wave of eco-criticism is replete with social concerns and a call for action to do something about the prevalent ecological condition. The works of writers like Rachel Carson herald this passage from preoccupation with pristine wilderness to informing the need for urgent action by making ecological concerns socially relevant. And talking about the third wave of eco-criticism expresses an all-encompassing concern. Ursula Heiss proposed the concept of world citizenship, according to which all life forms share a common destiny, highlighting the interdependency of the web of life. This wave of eco-criticism has given rise to neologisms like the global soul, eco-cosmopolitanism, translocality, and rooted cosmopolitanism. The works of Renee Gosson, George Handley show the evolution of this ecological thought. And talking about the fourth wave of eco-criticism, this particular wave emphasizes on attachment to landscape. So moving from nature, we get into this concept of landscape, body politics, and shared materiality, and eco-spirituality. Talking about the spiritual angle of ecological understanding comes here. So this fourth wave of eco-criticism, it calls for a reimagination of familiar landscape. Okay, it could be a landscape as familiar as your home, a landscape where you've been living all your life. So attuning a fresh outlook to habitual habitat is what this fourth wave of eco criticism is all about. Um, so a few writers whose writing can be attuned to this particular wave of eco-criticism is Thoreau again, Jonathan Edwards, Rachel Carson, Anne Swinger, Patty and Rogers, Edward Abbey, Annie Dillard, Linda Hogan, and Terry Tempest Williams. So you might actually find that some writers whose names have been mentioned in the earlier waves of eco-criticism do fall under this particular wave too, because of their eco-spiritual insight. Their eco-spiritual insight on all creatures as embodied beings are intermeshed with the dynamic material world which crosses through them, transforms them, and is transformed by them. So this particular wave is unique. The eco-spiritual view makes their writing very unique because they represent nature as something that transforms them and is transformed by them. And here I actually quoted the words of Stacey Alaimo, and this feature makes it truly transcorporeal. So I have chosen the work of two writers, Mahaswetha Devi and Terry Tempest Williams. So in this regard, the spiritualization and greening of nature in eco-feminist writings offers an enhanced ecological vision from the unique ecological sensibility of women. Contemporary feminist literature discusses a wide range of political, social, psychological, and ecological contexts. Ecofeminist literature embodies a plethora of experiences that shape the creative milieu of women. Feminist criticism likened to a mosaic that brings in diverse areas of critical studies like Marxism, psychoanalysis, Aboriginal literature, Dalit studies, and eco-criticism, making it a seminal area for transdisciplinary studies. Women who were subalternized in the yesteryears have started speaking, and the sweeping ooh of feminist literature has broken stereotypes and it has evolved into a prominent theory that has forged remarkable paradigm shifts in human thinking. So women have actually etched their niche in the gamut of ecological literature. Women across the globe, like Mahaswetha Devi and Terry Tempest Williams, Vandana Shiva, Annie Dillard, they all have skillfully woven feminist and ecological concerns in their works. The phenomenal growth of green feminist literature portrays a close communion of women with their oikos, their common home. So spiritualization of nature is a common thread that can be traced in the environmental literature of women around the globe. This paper compares the ecological perspectives of Indian writer Mahaswetha Devi, whose creative consciousness has been a liberating voice of the tribals, the Aboriginal community in India, and Terry Tempest Williams, a prominent American writer of creative nonfiction whose works champion the cause of nature. Currently, I'm working on the works of Terry Tempest Williams for my doctoral research. And by a close reading of The Hunt, which is a short story by Mahaswetha Devi, and When Women Were Birds, which is a memoir by Terry Tempest Williams, this particular presentation aims at exploring the diverse challenges of womanhood that are transformed into experiences of renewal through the spiritualization of nature. Gayatri Spivak could be a common name with most of you. She is a renowned post-colonial scholar who translated the works of Mahaswetha Devi into English, and her short stories have been published into 3 books, namely Imaginary Maps, Old Woman, and The Breast Stories. In the galaxy of writers who articulate a strong sense of responsibility towards the diminishing world, Terry Tempest Williams is an exceptional voice. Her works analyze scathing environmental issues from an ethical, spiritual, and feminist stance. Her works have rich ecofeminist insights, and some of her works that are very popular for its ecofeminist insights include Refuge and Unnatural History of Family and Place, and Unspoken Hunger, Stories from the Field, Red, Passion and Patience in the Desert, When Women Were Birds, 54 Variations on Voice, and The Hour of Land. The representation of women in literature by male and female writers is absolutely different. Okay, they have their inherent differences in their perceptions, and this definitely demands critical inquiry. Feminist criticism has evolved by deflecting its attention from male versions of female experiences to expound the essence and natural disposition of the world and outlook of women, leading to the reconstruction of female experiences and identity which was subjected to erasure in the past. Mahaswetha Devi's depiction of the character Mary Orion, a half-tribal girl in The Hunt, is nuanced, stippled with interesting minutiae about female experiences. 18 years old, tall, flat-featured, light copper skin. At a distance, she looks most seductive, but close up, you see a strong message of rejection in her glance. You wouldn't call her a tribal at first sight, yet she is a tribal. I unquote Mahaswetha Devi. Mary is portrayed as a skillful cowherd. So she's capable of terrific bargains with wholesale fruit buyers. Generally, in writings, the mundane routine and household chores of women, which form a very important part of their life, usually gets neglected. But this is depicted with a renewed curiosity in The Hunt. Mary is a very interesting and inevitable character with boundless energy and razor sharp mind. She works feverishly, carries a 40-pound bag on her shoulders, and catches a train, cleans the entire house of the Prasadjis in half an hour. Everything goes fine in the life of Mary Orion until the visit of Tahsildar Singh, a guest of Banwari Lal, Mr. Prasad's son, for whose family Mary is actually working for. He actually comes to town. Tahsildar Singh comes to town for discussing a deal regarding giant sal trees on Prasad's estate. on Prasad's estate. So Banwari Lal, he sets his eye on the sal trees. He sets his eye on nature as well as the feminine body. So he sets his eye on the giant sal trees on Prasad's estate, and he also starts lusting after Mary the moment he sees her. Mary is not at all happy with his advances. She immediately snubs his advances without much success. On the day of Jani Parab. Jani Parab is actually a festival of sacrifice. Okay, so on this day of Jani Parab, the annual hunting festival, where they hunt animals and sacrifice it to gods. This Jani Parab is actually a tribal festival which shows a close kinship with nature. Hunting, yes, they are hunting, but they are aborigines. They are guardians of forest. They are guardians of forest. So here we find Mary O'Ryan being a protector of the forest and also her community and also her femininity. So on this day of Jani Parab, which is a celebration of nature and also the spirituality of the Aboriginal community, Mary ultimately takes up violence in her hands to put an end to the shamanistic behavior of Tahsildar by hunting him down. Rather than being a passive rather than passively acquiescing to the male sexual aggression, Mary avenges her oppressive plight by killing her assailant. Now, moving on to When Women Were Birds by Terry Tempest Williams. In both these works, we find diverse feminist accounts on the relationship women share with nature. In the work When Women Were Birds, Williams establishes a strong sense of belongingness and home. Williams presents the strengths and vulnerabilities of women while exploring the idea of motherhood. Terry Tempest Williams and her husband Brooke, they made the choice of not begetting children, and they accept Louis, a Rwandan genocide survivor, as a son. In fact, Williams, in her books Finding Beauty in a Broken World, in detail describes her experiences in Rwanda and how they adopted Louis into their family as a son. So, as she writes about her experience as a mother to Louis, Williams experiences her perennial vulnerability a mother goes through. This kind of vulnerability is actually very true. I am a mother and I have a 6-month-old baby. It's almost 10 in the night. This is when she actually starts playing. So I came off to my place, to my mother's place, because I've got this conference so that she can take care of the baby. She gets along very well with her grandmother, but at 10 p.m. she needs me. I can hear her crying in the next room, and this anxiety is very, very true. So you know that she is in safe hands, but you're also always anxious about the safety of a child. So when I actually started reading this book, it was actually before my marriage when I started my research work. This passage did not make much sense to me, but now when I'm a new mother, it gives a lot of meaning to me. So this anxiety about the safety, the whereabouts of her adopted child, his needs, his health, the list goes on and on. So, talking about this, voice is the expression of one's heart, and the voice behind the heart matters is one of the important points Williams stresses here. Williams quotes her mother's letter on the eve of her wedding. This letter bespeaks the idea of nesting, building a family in which Williams was brought up. One's own family is seen as a model of a community to show unselfish love and work in unison with the partner to make the nest of yours peaceful and joyous. Her mother urges young Williams to keep her marriage interesting and exciting, just like how the verdant green earth throbs with life. Many forces work together in making existence possible. Similarly, a woman can be the sustaining force in a marriage to provide unselfish love, which can be reciprocated among a couple. This might sound a little androcentric, where the entire responsibility of the family's peace depends on a woman. So the woman is one important strand in maintaining the peace of the family. So much as a man has equal responsibility in building a family's peace, as the children have responsibility, as the entire family members, the community, everybody has a responsibility. The role of woman is also very important. The strength of Williams's marriage, she writes, is the time she and her husband Brooke spent apart in the wilderness. So, in the earlier work, The Hunt, we find how Mary actually protects the communal life, protects the life of her community. Here, we find how Williams embraces nature by embracing her solitude with nature. So, um, the strength of the relationship between Williams and her husband was not built in the time both of them spent together, but instead the time they spent apart. The respect for each other's solitude and freedom made the relationship whole. So this paradox never left Williams and her husband lonely in the marriage. She always felt protected despite the physical distance. And physical love has little to do with marriage, like sandstone. Physical love has little to do with it, and marriage is more like sandstone and granite, writes Williams in When Women Were Birds. Like the terrains of southern Utah, the topography of canyons, plateaus, and mountains, a weathered landscape has its own beauty. Akin to the weathering of red rock that has created the canyon windows and bridges, beauty is transformed. This stands true of the reconstruction of the beauty of marriage and landscape. Sacrifice and destruction happen, but mutual respect transforms the beauty of an individual and that of a relationship. So this is the essence of my paper. Mutual respect and support, no matter the distance and disposition, is the essence of successful companionship of Williams and her husband. So imposing one's belief and conviction on another is also a form of oppression. It's not only men oppressing women with their expectation, sometimes it's also women doing the same. So uh, we should not impose our own belief and conviction on the other person, be it a relationship, be it a relationship with the community. Respecting the eccentricities and hitting the middle ground, taking the concerns of both parties into account, ensures peaceful coexistence. This principle of living is important to keep the nest peaceful. The world is not homogeneous, and trying to enforce uniformity will be detrimental to the varied beauty and individuality of beings. Acceptance of diversity is an ideal that reverberates through the work of William. When Women Were Birds and The Hunt, they share a commonality in facilitating the breaking of power relations in the text and life of women portrayed in these literary works. For Mary O'Ryan, the rituals of tribal spirituality become their modus operandi to rebel against the patriarchal powers. And in When Women Were Birds and in Hunt, nature plays a very important role in the lives of women portrayed here. So nature is not sidelined, it's not considered to be a backdrop, but it is the main course where the action takes place. So struggles posed on women and nature by androcentric society as portrayed in these literary pieces demand a paradigm shift in the structuring of culture that takes into account ecological and feminist concern. Life on earth is interconnected. It is an interconnected web and not a patriarchal hierarchy. And reconstructing the attitudes and notions of humanity in big and small ways can turn chaos into melodious harmony that embraces and celebrates diversity. And spiritualization of nature can be a unifying force to blend and create beauty in this broken world. Thus, a woman can keep her nest peaceful and also have the courage to thwart anything that disturbs the peace of her nest, the earth. Embracing both solitude and communal living, spirituality serves as a guidepost in making this world a better place. Thank you.